Welcome to David's Rebel Coding Podcast. I wanted to share a little secret with you. When I originally became a web application developer, I naively thought that I would be doing like desktop publishing and that it would be more artistic and I would have some liberty to create some graphic design work. And that's what attracted me to this profession in the first place and why I went into it. Um, I remember rejecting going into computer science programming because I thought there wasn't enough room for creativity and the artistic pursuit. And I do feel like the publishing industry is a creative industry to kind of get into. But I want to share a little bit of a secret. So I also want to say I was wrong in my initial assumptions. And most of web code, when you actually go into it, if you don't know already, will look more like this. So this is just an example of a bunch of code that you're writing to get something to work. It's really not that creative. It's just something you kind of have to do to get something to work. So it's mechanical. It's more engineering and it's more often they're called boilerplate code. It's tedious and time consuming. And in my opinion, it's a bit of a waste. It's too bad that you have to do it this way. But that does seem to be the reality. Now, it's interesting that Facebook is the company that invented the concept of building websites using something like a React framework. And I'm just going to go to a typical website that's going to be pretty much advanced and state of the art because it's like a stalwart of capitalism. That's the New York Times. So let's take a look at the New York Times. And I'm just going to use, instead of Firefox here, I'm going to go to Chrome. And I'm going to go to the New York Times website in Chrome. So let's see if I can move a tab over here. And then I'm just going to go to this website and show you something. So on the page, we learned in the previous video that there's three components that make up a web page. There's the styles, CSS, there is the JavaScript, and that is where we learned how you can do interactivity with the user. You can create buttons. So for example, in this image, there's a button where I can go to the next picture or the next video in this case, and it will show that. There's an animation going on in here, and then these are links that will take me into the article. So those are some things that you need JavaScript to interact with the user. And the other aspect of it is the DOM. So that's basically like the HTML layout of the page itself and the components that comprise the page. Now here's the little secret. The secret is that as things became more and more complicated, led by Facebook and other big multimedia companies, the demands for how to build the web applications became impossible using the existing paradigms. So some new ideas had to come into the marketplace to enable more things happening on the website. So if we look at what is going on this website, if I go and inspect it, and then I look at, this is the DOM, the HTML part of it. So if I open up in the head section, you can see all the scripts and things like that that are being loaded in to make this website work the way it does. And on the right, it shows you all the styles that they've computed and put into the style sheets to make it look the way that it does. I find this a little confusing and overwhelming to look at it this way. So they have other tabs that can break down depending on what you're interested in. This is a nice one called sources. Now, this is a little bit insightful. So we'll look at like the sources here. You've got New York Times, so it's A1. The first thing, top of the list, A number one, is some JavaScript that runs the web page. Basically, the usability is number one. That makes that page function. It's probably the most important one, is the first one there. Then we've got the next one. It's called brand metrics. And you know that the publishing industry was in a bit of a crisis a few years ago as internet technologies were booming. They were questioning their business models and having to look at alternate ways to survive in the marketplace. And you can tell by looking at what is being loaded into the page. There's things like collector brand metrics. There is something about activity. So that suggests like there's a lot of data being tracked about users that are on this website. So every time you come to the New York Times, you can do a lot of information gathering in JavaScript and then send it silently in the background without the user even knowing it. They can know the city that I'm coming from. They can know the time of day, obviously. They can know how long my mouse is near one article versus another article, or another article, like where I was, my interest of where the mouse was, which one I actually click on. And if you actually do click on an article, you'll see that it does more than just serve the content for that particular article. It's going to be doing some other things in the background. Recording that click from me as an anonymous user. They don't really know who I am, but they know an awful lot about who you are, not specifically, but they'll know what city I'm coming from. They'll know how, like, whether I'm wealthy or not. They can deduce from the type of device. Like when you're on the web page, every device has a unique signature that it transmits with it when you go visit the page. And the person writing simple JavaScript can get all that. So, for example, they can know if I'm on a Mac laptop. If you're on a Mac laptop, you're probably in a higher demographic because you're going to be paying 40% more for that type of computer. And you're going to fit a certain profile. It's like people that buy Volvos versus a person that buys a Honda. There's a kind of brand reference that goes with different types of devices. Or are you a Galaxy notebook type of user? Are you on an iPad? Are you on a phone? And are you using an Apple phone with an Apple computer? And they can correlate your visits with different devices and times of day that you go and visit the website. And over time, they can build this kind of profile, and they can, over time, learn an awful lot about you as a person, your interests. For example, if they're serving content like the New York Times, they've got editorial pieces, and they can find out a lot about my personality, about what I'm interested in. If I like all this international relations stuff on the front page, and I'm always interested in, what's happening here. That's one kind of demographic. Or if I'm going into editorial sections and I'm looking at, if I do the crossword puzzle or whatever you're doing, all your activities can all be tracked, and they're amalgamated with millions of other people. So it's become big business because people that are in the marketing and advertising fields would like to know that kind of information to know how to sell you products. So while the New York Times is not selling me anything on this website, but they are extracting, I am unintentionally, without me even knowing it. There might have been a warning that popped up when I first came on saying, do you agree to our terms and conditions? And I blindly just accepted. But I didn't really know the implication of what's happening in the background. And I just wanted to also show in this video, this podcast, like technically, how do they do this? How do you build a web application and do all these things silently in the background without your users knowing it? And the way you do it is what we started in yesterday's video, and that is you start building components and putting them together. Now, the old paradigm of building HTML pages doesn't work anymore. That's broken. So what these companies are using, the New York Times included, is a framework. It's not even a framework, but they're using a tool called React. And this will allow you to build more performance into the components so that you can load more on your page without the user really even knowing about it. So that's one of the primary reasons it was architected the way it was. Now, what I'm showing you is the same type of component architecture. What we can do in the next video, if you stay tuned, is we can build a pager control. So, for example, I went and just Googled, can you give me a pager control, what that might look like? And then using this system that we've developed, using these JXT files, you can basically just literally copy what Google gives you and paste it into a new component we've called products pager. So if you stay tuned for the next video, we'll learn how to integrate. And you can see that the pager is showing up just nicely right here on the screen. This is kind of what we want to integrate. And then we'll show you how to put that into the page of the wine that we have sorted here. And we'll go through that as an example. And then this shows you how you can script and make the buttons functional that show up in your pager control. So in the next video, if you like this video, then click like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video, and I'll show you how you can integrate multiple components on your page so we can implement the pager control for our list of wine products that we want to sell for our online shopping store that we've started creating. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.